In the first video, we looked at getting data from an Excel file. I want to get some more data. Now, when it comes to getting data and bringing it into Power BI, you can do it from within Power BI just using these buttons here, and this one in particular if it's an Excel file. But you can also do it if you're actually in Power Query. If I go to transform data, for example, I can also get data using the new source button that's available within the Power Query editor. Okay, so let's get some more data. First of all, I am going to put my Power Query and my Power BI side by side rather than pressing Alt-Tab to jump between the two of them. If I hold the Windows key and hit the right arrow, I will put the Power Query editor on the right. If I then click on Power BI and press Windows left arrow, I'll put Power BI on the left. So at the moment you can see in my Power BI, I've just brought in one query or one table called sales, and I can see what's in it just by clicking the chevron. I can also see in my Power Query editor, I've brought in one query called sales, and I can see the data here. Now let's say I want to bring in another Excel file, and I'm going to do it from the Power BI side of things just by using the Excel workbook button. If I choose this button, I'm going to bring in Byte Customers. And so if I click on Byte Customers and I click on Open, the navigator will eventually appear once a connection is made. Now, when I look at the Byte Customers file, there is only one source and it's a worksheet called Customers. So I'm going to click on Customers, and if I choose Transform Data, it will load it into Power Query. If I choose Load, it won't load it into Power Query, it'll just appear in my list of fields in my Power BI screen. So let's go Transform. Eventually, I see Customers appear in my Power Query, and I can hit refresh if I choose to. And if I go to this side, I can see it's not loaded into Power BI. So if I apply changes on this side, suddenly I can see I've got both queries appearing in my Power BI screen and in my Power Query screen. Now it's interesting that when you're looking at Power BI, it always sorts these queries in alphabetical order. So customers comes first, even though I brought it in second. Whereas in Power Query, they show in the order that they were actually brought in. You can rearrange them just by dragging them up and down. Let's bring in another file. Maybe this time I'll bring in the file not from the Power BI side of things, but from the Power Query side of things. I'll go to New Source. It's an Excel workbook, so I'll choose that option there. And I'm going to bring in the orders history. And if I go Open, again, it'll connect and the navigator will appear. Now, because I brought it in via Power Query, I don't get the load and transform. Because I'm opening it or bringing it in through Power Query, I'm naturally wanting to transform it. I have two choices here. I have a database, which looks like that, and I have a sheet that looks like that. I'm going to bring the orders sheet in, and I'll click OK. It immediately appears as the third item in my list of 3 queries because it's the third thing I brought in. It does not appear in my Power BI, but if I apply the changes, it will appear as the second item alphabetically in my fields list in Power BI. So we can keep the two of these open. Interesting to see how they behave. We can bring data in via Power BI, or we can bring data in via Power Query. If I was to close and load on the Power Query side of things, it would close Power Query and I would just be left with Power BI. If I maximize Power BI and I then want to go and transform the data in these 3 queries, I can go to Transform Data. If I click that, the Power Query window comes back up, and let me just maximize that. And as far as jumping back and forth, I mentioned in video 1 that you can just rest on this button and jump to Power BI and jump to Power Query, or hold the Alt key with your thumb and tap the Tab key, and you'll be able to rotate back and forth between Power BI and Power Query. So choose how you want to jump back and forth, either put them side by side or Alt-Tab or use the taskbar to jump back and forth between Power Query and Power BI. So Power BI is the overarching application. It's part of the Microsoft Power Platform. Power BI is business intelligence or business insights. It's the whole program. And Power Query is just the engine that sits inside of Power BI and sits inside of Excel that we use to transform data. And we're really going to give that a good go in this series of videos for my Level 1 course. Stay tuned for video 3.